you have invested in an IPO, raise your hand. We want to talk about IPOs with the marketing edge. So gentlemen, I'll open up the floor to you. Who wants to start first? What's your IPO history and how did marketing play into it as you saw it?
Yeah, I'm going to just jump in right off the bat. We've gotten to be a part of a couple of them in terms of an uplist. The big thing that I want to talk about here is how the market always reacts. I remember investing in Beat, ticker tag BEAT, company called Heartbeam, and it's really cool technology, really like it. I think I invested in them at $4.50 a share, and then as soon as that thing went out, it plummeted. We're talking like lost about half of its value, went down to about $1.50, $2, and then about a year and a half later or so, almost I think 2 years later, shot right back up, hit $6, was able to cash out. From a marketing perspective, when you do an initial public offering, you don't want to have your shareholders just dump your stock. An initial public offering is kind of your first appearance to your audience. And if you can play it off right, you can hold through all the loyalty that you need to gain to hold the stock price and ultimately bring it back up.
For me recently, and I'm still involved, hoping for the comeback like BEAT, I'm in Knightscope, KSCP. It was at $5, it's at $1.62 now, but I mean, that thing was at like 28 cents. This last 6 months, it's starting to come back. It's kind of like going to prom. And has the company bought its tuxedo or its dress, its corsages? Has it had its hair done? That's the marketing side of things. Somebody else jump in.
I remember I got spurned back in 2020, 2021 when Palantir first went public. They did well for a little bit and then just started cratering after a while. And it is an amazing company with really good technology, but they got hit in that pump era of that 2020 2021 era, and it took them a while to come back, but they were very consistent with their efforts of showing their value proposition, and over time begun to recover from that and are really positioning themselves very well. Alternatively, you've got Robinhood, who went public and has just been cratering and has not really been building up investor engagement and confidence.
The whole rollout of Hood, that was one of the funniest things I've ever witnessed inside of the social communities. When that thing went public, they had a field day. When your users, the people who literally use your platform, are sitting there saying, we're going to short this thing to death, you're not approaching an IPO right. You're just in it for making money. I think the owners of that actually made bank. I think they actually did really well, which is part of the reason why they've been cratering ever since.
There was a lot of people talking about that they were going to buy puts the second options were allowed in there. Yeah. And the second they were, you could see a drastic drop in their price.
Let's be real here. How many people go to social media and say, I'm going to short this stock, I'm going to short this thing to death, and then they don't do anything? They just sit back and they spread some FUD into the community, and then they just move on with themselves. Jay can probably speak to this a lot from the community standpoint, but perception is reality. What that really means is whatever your perception may be is your personal reality.
Early 2022, we started having that pump boom again, and I joined a investor community, and what they were doing was they were getting on these stocks early. They were telling, hey, this is the stock you need to jump into. You would get that pre-order in, and then when it went live is you would let it ride up, and the only time that you were going to stay in that is after you made your initial investment in. You'd pull that investment out and then leave whatever else is in there to go.
Well, we were talking beforehand too about the role of compliance on all of this as well. I mean, I know you guys have different takes. Jay, I think it was you that brought up the SEC, right?
Yeah. So with the IPOs, the biggest issues that we were having with this investor community was every time something would run up, the SEC or whoever was in charge would halt these things.
The SEC came in and did their job. And I think a lot of retail traders need to have just a little bit more respect and a little bit more understanding for why the SEC comes in and does this stuff. So imagine this: if an initial public offering can just be pumped and then dumped right off the bat, those companies will never see the light of day. Like, I was legitimately worried that Heartbeam would never see the light of day because of what happened to them. And they eventually did get some type of approval and move forward. But when the SEC halts a stock, it is not because the SEC is just like, oh, we don't want the little guy to make money.
Kevin Gray must have gotten an informal inquiry from the SEC because he sounds like their number one fan. So if we can get
just trying to stay on their good side. That's all. Just trying to stay on the good side.
You are learning quickly from me. I don't like anything in the alphabet, and I do whatever they say. So whether it's SEC, FINRA, FBI, closing thoughts from anybody before we wrap it up?
Do your own due diligence. Just like I think I've said in previous videos, if you rely on an influencer to know when you're going to buy a stock, you're going to rely on that influencer to sell that stock. And those influencers don't tell you when to sell because they're not allowed to.
What I think is going to be a catastrophe in the making, check out Reddit. They're going to be IPOing soon, and they do not have currently a very good consumer engagement. A lot of users are not happy. There have been a lot of changes in order to optimize for their upcoming IPO, trying to maximize profits, and it's really hurting their branding. And so if you want to watch kind of a case study in real time, kind of pay attention to Reddit as it's approaching its IPO.
Timing wise, so
Awesome.
that's going to be good because I'm seeing IPOs are starting to get hot again, where the investor community is sharing more about IPOs. So it might be good timing, even if they're bad placement.
Give us a follow, give us a like, engage with us socially. We want to hear what your topics are. For Demetrius, Jay, and Kevin, this is Stuart Smith saying thanks so much for tuning in.